Now, Russia's rather troubled police will soon be provided with their own psychiatric help services. Special departments will promote patriotism and intolerance of corruption, as well as cultivate high morals among the men and women of the force. Our correspondent Peter Oliver, he joins us now with the details. So, Peter, just tell us about what this new programme entails and when can we expect it to get underway?
Well, I can tell you when it's going to get underway straight away. These new moves will be brought in on the 1st of July of this year, and what they are is not just the psychiatric help, what you mentioned there, that is a main part of it, but also a scheme of social activities for officers to take part in when they're not on duty. Now, they've singled out one of the things was that there wasn't really enough to keep officers entertained and keep their minds turning over when they weren't on duty, so they'll range from sporting events, sporting teams, right through to music and arts groups. But the main thing that sticks out is, of course, the fact that psychiatric help will be available to officers, and they're going to be trying to put forward that they should be able to talk about their feelings with the job, and that may be one difficult obstacle to overcome. But they're going to be expected to talk about their feelings, what they've seen on the job, and to try and get it out in the open and receive professional help for that. Also, you mentioned there, another thing that's going to be put forward is to tell them how to teach officers how to deal with with corruption. They may be presented with corruption that they didn't initially solicit, how they deal with somebody trying to offer them a bribe. That's also going to be on the table there. This is things that haven't been done in the past. These are part of President Medvedev's new sweeping reforms that he's promised to bring in for the police force, so we should be seeing that by July this year.
Peter, you just mentioned that these are things that have not been done in the past, so why is it happening now?
Well, why now? One of the most high-profile cases of the Russian criminal system in recent years is that of Denis Estyukov, the former police major who murdered 2 people and was accused of the attempted murder of 22 others after he went on a shooting spree in a Moscow supermarket. He's now serving life in prison. Now, that was something that really shook the foundations of the police force and really made President Medvedev say, right, something has to be done now from the highest levels of the government. This is one of the reasons that this is being brought in now, as I say, part of those sweeping changes that Medvedev has promised for the police.
OK, thanks very much. That's our correspondent Peter Oliver with the latest for us there.
Well, for more on the story, we're now joined by Deidre from the Moscow News. Thanks so much for joining us again. It's not your first time on the programme. Yeah. Deidre, the force is somewhat notorious for its culture of corruption. Is there any chance that this new implemented source will be subject to corruption as well?
Would the actual force be subjected to corruption, are you saying?
I'm saying...
Or the psychologists?
The psychological aspect of it, the psychologists who
well,
to work
it's certainly
there.
possible. It depends on where they're coming from, where they've been trained. I'm assuming they're coming from the outside and are, let's assume, coming in with a non-corrupt feeling or attitude towards police enforcement. I don't think that it would have much of an opportunity to help cure corruption, which is an endemic problem. And the only thing I can think that they would help with on the subject of corruption would be maybe in pre-testing. I know in the states and in the federal government, like FBI, they pre-test people to see, which they can apparently do with tests.
Who's applying for the job?
The police officers who are applying for the job. So you're young, you want to get into the police, the police department, and they'll say, here are a bunch of psychological tests we're going to give you to find out if you are bent that way. In that small way, it might have an effect in the long term for these new cadets who are coming in.
But working with the people who are already there, already working, you wouldn't think that it will make a huge difference?
Because I don't think corruption here is a psychological issue, which is an individual issue. It seems to me that in our police departments, it's a sociological issue. It's a group issue, which psychologists don't deal with. They deal with one-on-one, what is this person's individual problem.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, in what way do you think that Russian police could benefit from having a psychologist on hand?
Well, they could in the sense of their own personal stresses. It's a stressful job. It's one of the most stressful jobs, apparently close to air traffic controller, dentist, two of the other very stressful jobs. They could help deal with stress. They could help deal with individual cases of maybe suicidal tendencies or after a critical incident, if anyone was killed in the line of fire or if they were in a dangerous situation. As we
understand it, one of the aims of this new project is to try and change the moral standpoint of police so that they will be less susceptible to corruption. Is that even possible, do you think?
I've not heard of psychologists being able to train anyone out of their particular moral point of view. That is more the job of our religious institutions, perhaps some other kind of training which I can't think of. But normally psychologists don't deal with morality, and I don't think it would be any different here. I don't see how they can.
You keep talking about individuals, though, so you don't believe that we will be able to notice it on a massive scale? Though?
No. I mean, the psychologist deals with an individual. He does not deal with a group. A sociologist deals with a group. So maybe if they came up with a sociological task force, a bunch of sociologists or people who study group dynamics and reasons the groups behave the way they do, that might be more effective if corruption is what we're trying to deal with. If helping police officers deal with their life and their job is what we're trying to deal with, psychologists will help on a one-on-one basis and not endemically, not throughout the force. They can weed out, for the younger people, not for the people we have now, they can weed out people who would be more bent to be more corrupt with basic testing. Apparently they can do these tests. They're developed. They've been developed by psychological institutions and in the States and the West generally. So that has some hope. There's a glimmer of hope there if that's what they're going to use it for. If they're going to call in the police officers to date and say, you know, let's try to mass psychologize you and let's tell you just to be nice and good, I don't think that has much of a chance of succeeding.
Let's just hope it means a more happy cop, and a happy cop will be a less corrupt cop. Let's hope so. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Optimist. Thank you very much. That's our guest,
no problem.
Deidre from the Moscow News.
Thank you.